Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I got a video for anyone who wants to improve their aim, movement, positioning, or overall gun skill. A guaranteed and faster way to get better at the game. I'm going to show you 10 practice drills that I started doing that have really helped me become a better overall player. Now I am in no way a pro player or an elite level player, but I do have a lot of hours of experience in game, and I've spent the last 3 years watching and trying to learn how the top players play. I've done a ton of research on how to get better at Call of Duty Battle Royales, going all the way back to the beginning of Blackout. Now, when I first started doing drills way back in Season 3, I saw a major improvement in my personal stats and my overall gameplay. But then when Season 4 released, everything was out of whack and my aim just felt completely off. I'll get into it more later, but long story short, it ended up being a setting for PC players that I didn't even know existed. It accidentally got enabled and then it stayed on for almost 2 months. During that time, I really started grinding these drills trying to get back to where I was, which actually led me to discover something else that ended up helping out even more. So at the end of this video, I'm going to include a bonus drill I started doing back then that's been a huge help in getting me back on track. So stick around until the end because it could end up being a game changer for you. Now lastly, before we get started, please excuse any audio issues from drill to drill. I've been recording this over a long period of time while still trying to figure out the best audio settings. And the video took longer than I wanted to finish, so I didn't want to go back and try to re-record things, so my voice may sound different from time to time. Now the way I did this is I recorded myself doing the drills in the background, and then I do a voiceover on how to do the drills. I figured it was the easiest way to get the bots to cooperate so I could demonstrate the techniques. Quickly, I want to show you how I set up my practice sessions. Right now, if you want to do these drills exactly how I'm going to show you, you're going to need full access to Modern Warfare. When Vanguard finally integrates into Warzone sometime shortly after its release, we should be able to practice and do the drills using Vanguard custom games. But in the meantime, I highly recommend you use Modern Warfare to practice if you can. You could probably get it fairly cheap since it's nearly 2 years old, and it makes practicing these drills and getting better at the mechanics faster and easier. If you can't get access to Modern Warfare, what you can do is use the Warzone Battle Royale practice mode. There are bots to shoot in there, you're just going to have to modify the drills a bit to fit that mode. You can also load in the plunder and practice some of the drills solo and just focus on mastering the different movements and mechanics. But if you're serious about getting better and becoming a higher skilled player, you should really try to use the custom games. Just make sure it's Modern Warfare, not Cold War. The Cold War game mechanics are quite a bit different from Warzone. Now for those of you that don't know, you want to load into Modern Warfare, go to the bottom of the screen and select Private Match and then Custom Game. Next you want to hit Game Setup. For the sake of saving time, I'm going to put the game settings up on the screen, and then you guys can just pause the video and take a screenshot whenever you're ready to try the drills. I'm going to circle the ones I feel are most important, and then you can just copy them exactly the way I have it set up. Speedball is the best map for doing these drills. Because of its size and dimensions, it makes doing them fast and easy. If later on you want to experiment with some of the other maps, you can, but if you're warming up with these drills before you play, Speedball is the best way to go. Now, if I'm going to do these drills as a warm-up before I play, I normally put the time limit at 10 to 12 minutes. If I'm doing a longer practice session, I'll just set it to unlimited. Now with max health, I keep it at 150 most of the time. It makes transitioning between the bots feel smooth. A couple times I've gone up to 250 to mimic fighting someone fully plated in Warzone, but I suggest you try it at 150 first. When it comes to bot setup, 5 is perfect for Speedball. Unless you're on a larger map, I wouldn't go any higher than that. If these mechanics are somewhat new to you, dropping it down to 4 or even 3 might make it easier starting out. Bot difficulty, try to keep it on Recruit. We want the bots to be easy since we're working on accuracy, movement, and technique. If they start hip firing too much and it's throwing your aim off, you can switch it to regular. Sometimes they're a little bit easier to track, but I definitely wouldn't go any higher than that. I try to keep it on Recruit as much as I can. Now the last thing we want to do is go over to weapons and pick a loadout. I would run 2 guns with overkill, with the primary gun being a shorter range weapon, something like the Bullfrog, MP5, MP7, and try to build it for movement speed and aiming in fast. If you haven't before, try to use iron sights. It frees up a slot so you can add speed, and then it makes aiming in quicker and tracking players easier. For the second gun, try to pick an AR similar to what you use in Warzone. Something longer range with maybe like a VLK optic. A lot of the times you're going to do these drills with a maneuverable short range weapon, but from time to time you can switch to an AR and practice some of these drills at longer range. For these specific drills, I wouldn't go with a sniper. That's something else I plan on doing as we get closer to Vanguard. If you want to copy these loadouts how I use them, I'm going to put them up on the screen. Just copy my attachments and build them the same way I have it set up. Now for perks, you're going to want double time, overkill, and amped. Double time's kind of important when it comes to these drills, and stim shot and an ammo box are good to carry as well. Now lastly, one thing I forgot to mention, after you finish with the game rules, if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a spot that says create custom mode. If you select that, you can save the game rules under its own slot. That way, next time you want to practice, you just pick the map and then you go under mode and select my modes, and then you press whatever you saved it under. And then after that, you just go back and do your bot setup and then you're good to go. It'll save you the time of having to go through all the game rules every single time you want to play. Alright, now this first drill I have for you is what I call a slow aim drill. It's very self-explanatory. All you want to do is you want to move around the map and you want to try to get on target as smoothly as you can. Start out slow and just try to get on target, and then you can pick the pace up as you progress. The goal of this drill is just to get your mind and your fingers ready to start playing. I mean, it's pretty much just like a warm-up to a warm-up. This drill can be helpful if you've been struggling with your aim lately, or if you just have issues aiming in general. I mean, everyone has good and bad days, so doing this for a minute or so every time you warm up, it can help you become a little bit more consistent. Like if I notice my aim's off that day while I'm doing this, I might spend an extra minute or so on it while I'm trying to get it straightened out. Now, if you are someone who has issues getting and staying on target, practice getting as close as you can and then try to use more of your left stick to strafe in the rest of the way. Strafing, it's a good way to try to learn to track and stay on target. Now this game has really sticky aim assist, but other games where it isn't as strong, that's where you want to rely on using your momentum and strafing into a target. It's the best way to learn to aim consistently. Incorporate it into this drill if you have to, just start out slow. But regardless, try to practice keeping your crosshairs at that upper chest level as you move around, and then focus on your front sight as you aim in and you try to get that center upper chest. I found focusing on that little white dot and focusing on my front sight when I'm aiming in, it really helps me get on target faster and helps me land shots more accurately, especially if I'm trying to warm up. Just do this until you feel comfortable shooting bots at a decent speed, and then you can move on to the next drill. Alright, the second one I have for you is a hip fire drill. We're going to approach it the same way we did the first, only you're not going to be aiming in. With this drill, you're going to want to get close, within a few meters, and the goal is to try to stay on target as much as you can while you're moving around the enemy, hip firing, and trying to track them as they move and they fire back. Just like the first drill, I start slow and I try to focus on the little white dot. For some reason, it helps me get and stay on target, and it seems to give me better overall control of my aim. Focusing on the dot is not something I really do in live games, it's only when I'm practicing, but in any case, it's helping me build the muscle memory I need to accurately control my right stick. Now the drill is designed to help us with accuracy and maneuverability, and to help prepare us for those really close range gunfights that are short, fast, and chaotic. Now you don't have to spend a lot of time on this drill, only a minute or so whenever you're warming up, and just start at a slower pace and gradually work up to normal speed. At some point you want to incorporate sliding and jumping past your opponent as a way to get in behind them and quickly start landing shots. Now hipfire is not something a lot of people use in Warzone because it can be really inconsistent, but if it's used in the right situations it can give you a pretty decent advantage at times. Eventually, when I release some of the more advanced drills that I do, I'm going to show you one where I incorporate going back and forth between ADSing and hip firing while I'm bunny hopping away from my opponent. It's something I use a lot in close range gunfights, especially against higher skilled guys. So if you like different ways of practicing like this, subscribe to the channel and get notified when I upload the more advanced practice videos, and then in the meantime use this drill to try to really dial in your hip fire movement and accuracy. Alright, now the third drill I'm going to show you is a strafing drill. The goal of this one is to get you in the habit of moving every time you're going to get into a gunfight. Now the way I do this is when I see someone I'm about to start shooting, I immediately start moving laterally in a direction I'm going to be aiming. What that does is it makes my opponent have to adjust their aim and start tracking me before the gunfight even begins. Now, depending on the situation, once I snap on and I start firing, I'll either continue strafing in the direction I started, or I'll immediately change directions and start strafing back the other way. It really just depends on the situation. A lot of times I like to strafe in the direction of cover. That way there, if I feel like I'm not going to win this one, I could always disengage and try to get behind something like a wall or a rock and try to figure out where to go from there. The main thing with this is you want to make sure you're strafing left or right whenever you're shooting at the bots. The entire purpose of this exercise is to build muscle memory and to make it a habit whenever you're firing your gun. You never want to stand still when you're fighting in this game. It's a lot harder to hit a moving target. Like I said before, Warzone has really strong aim assist, so when you're strafing, you only have to adjust your aim slightly with your right stick. So just practice strafing in one direction with your left stick while you slightly adjust your aim with your right. And over time, you'll start getting better at making those micro adjustments. And if you're someone who doesn't use strafing already, try to use this drill to make it a habit and to get more accurate, because it can definitely help you win a lot more gunfights. Alright, now the fourth drill, and definitely one of the most important drills I have for you, is the reaction time drill. What you want to do is you want to move around the map and start firing the instant you see the bots. The goal is to see how fast you can aim in and start firing once you've seen the enemy. With this drill, you almost want to feel on edge the entire time you're doing it. Try not to look at the mini-map a lot when you're doing this drill. You want to be surprised by the bots so you can get faster at reacting in these situations. If you even think you just saw someone, I want you to start firing. You should even practice pre-firing once in a while if you know someone's about to come around a corner. Now with pre-firing, you want to practice timing it just right. Time it so you start shooting just before you see your target, and try not to fire too soon or you'll give your position away and they'll be able to react accordingly. Super fast reaction time might be the most important skill to develop when it comes to winning gunfights, and a lot of the times in Warzone, first bullet wins the fight. You'll notice the one thing all the top and elite Warzone players have in common is insanely fast reaction time. You'll notice they all fire the very instant they even catch a glimpse of someone. Now I know some people are just naturally better at it than others, but if you work at it and just focus on trying to get as fast as you can, it could end up being that one thing that brings you to the next level. Now there's two more things I want you to focus on when you're doing this drill. First, I want you to concentrate on keeping your fingers on the fire and aim buttons as you move around the map. I noticed I had a bad habit of keeping my fingers a little bit off the triggers when I'm playing, and it was delaying my reaction time. Milliseconds are important in this game, and that little bit of extra time it takes to press the triggers could end up being the reason you lose a gunfight. The second thing I want you to do is get in the habit of firing your gun at the same time or even a hair before you start aiming in. Try to make it so your target is already getting hit by the time you're fully aimed in on them. Both these things will shave milliseconds off your reaction time, and that's going to help you win gunfights. This drill is something I spend a ton of time on and I'm constantly trying to improve on. Try to practice this a lot, and then you're going to start to see why I say reaction time is so important. Okay, number 5 is the cover drill. It's another concept that's super important, and if you're one of the casual players with lower gun skill and basic movement, it's probably one of the most important things you can learn to utilize in the game. All players, regardless of skill, should be using cover in Warzone. But for a newer or lower skilled player, it's that one thing that could tip you the advantage in a gunfight. Now the main goal of this drill is to only shoot bots from behind cover. As you move around the map, you want to always be looking for new cover, and then whenever you see or you run into a bot, you want to find any little piece of it you can, get behind it, and start landing shots. Anything that covers part of your body counts. The best type of cover you can find is when it comes up to your neck, and that's called a head glitch. When your head is sticking out, you're an extremely hard target to hit, and even more so if you throw in strafing and other types of movement. Any type of cover in this game is an advantage, even if it only covers part of your body. It can still throw your opponent's aim off, block bullets, or even mess with their aim assist. As you go through the drill, try to practice running, sliding, or jumping to cover anytime you're caught out in the open and you see a bot. Practice shooting the bots from different angles behind cover, and if you find a piece of it that only comes up a little bit, practice crouching down behind it and try to turn it into a head glitch. One thing I see lower skilled players do over and over in this game is they run out into the open and stand still whenever they're going to get into a fight. I'll catch myself doing it sometimes too, and that's the reason why I started doing this drill, so I can ingrain it in my head and make always looking for cover an instinct as I'm moving around the map. As you're moving around in Warzone, if you're always looking for and moving to your next piece of cover, you'll always be in a better position to fight. Whether I'm practicing the drill or I'm playing in an actual game, I'm always saying in my head, where's my next piece of cover? And then as I move, I try to leapfrog from one piece to the next piece to the next. That way there, if it pops off, I got a place to fight from. Now lastly in this drill, whenever possible, try to position yourself in a way when you're fighting the bots that the cover you're behind shields you from the other bot's line of sight. Try to make it so when you're fighting one opponent, you're not exposed to getting hit from other angles. It's a bit more advanced, but using cover like that is one of the first steps in learning to fight multiple players at once. There's not a lot of places to do it on this map, but it's good just to think about whenever we're going through this drill. Whenever I put out my next practice video, I plan on putting this in there as an advanced cover drill, and then coming up in this video, I'm going to show you a couple things I practice using different movements behind cover that can help give you an even bigger advantage whenever you get into a fight. But with this drill, it's pretty straightforward. Only shoot bots when you're behind a piece of cover, and the more you practice it, the more it'll start to occur to you and become a habit to always look for cover whenever you're playing this game. Okay, number 6 is the headshot drill. The best way to start winning more gunfights is to start purposely incorporating headshots. As you practice this, try to keep your crosshairs towards the upper chest level, and then once you start firing, slowly and smoothly bring your sights up to your opponent's head. In Warzone, just landing shots is most important, but if you happen to land 2 or 3 headshots, most of the time it's going to end the fight. When you're doing this, look for it to say headshot elimination on the screen every time you kill a bot. This drill is going to develop more of that muscle memory that'll help carry over into Warzone. Now you don't want to aim for the head or keep your crosshairs at head level right off the bat. The aim assist box is smaller, making it harder to get and stay on target. Plus, everyone in this game crouches, slides, and drop shots, and it could get you killed before you're able to correct your shot. The easiest thing to do is just try to aim center upper chest and then just walk your sights up to the neck and head. Plus, this game has a neck shot and a headshot multiplier, and both increase bullet damage. Now, there is a headshot only practice mode where only headshots cause damage, but I recommend you use that for sniper drills, which I'm also going to put out soon. Now just start out slow, and then as the drill progresses, try to get faster and faster. You just want to stay smooth and try not to miss a lot of shots. Now once you get to the last part of this drill, try jumping when you're firing at the upper chest. You'll notice it brings the sights up to head level without having to adjust your aim. I win a lot of gunfights by just jumping when I'm shooting in a close range fight. Especially if you're fighting and say it's even, maybe you both fired at the same time. Just by jumping to get 1 or 2 headshots, a lot of times you're going to win that fight. It's a fast and easy way to win 50-50 gunfights. Just make sure it's at close range. Long range, you're just going to end up missing your shots. Now once you try this live, just watch out for the drop shot. It's hard to adjust your aim once you're up in midair. If you can use this drill to make walking the sights up to the head a habit, you won't have to remember to do it every fight when you're in an actual game. Alright, now the 7th drill is the slide stop drill. There's a ton of videos out there on the how and why to slide stop, but this video is more for getting better at certain techniques rather than it is how to do them. I will go over it quick if you've never used slide stopping before. Let me just say, having buttons or paddles on the back of your controller will make slide stopping and the next couple of drills a lot easier. Being able to keep both thumbs on the stick and controlling your aim while you're doing these more advanced movements, it's super important. And not being able to properly use these mechanics is putting you at a huge disadvantage. You can get them pretty cheap and they hook right onto the back of your controller, so do yourself a favor and get them if you can. Okay, now the first thing you want to do is get into attack sprint. Once you start sprinting, you're going to tap the crouch button once to slide and then tap the crouch button again to stop sliding. Immediately after, you're going to tap the jump button once to stand back up from the crouch position. It's really easy. It's just sprint, slide, slide, jump. And it's something you should get in the habit of doing all the time. It resets the attack sprint so you can move around the map a lot faster, and it'll make you a much more aggressive player. Enabling the auto attack sprint in the options menu makes these movements a lot easier as well. So if you're not using it already, you should. You'll notice you're able to move around the map a lot more smoothly. Alright, so for the actual drill, there's 3 main parts. The first thing you're going to want to do is practice moving around the map, trying to shoot as many bots as you can while you're practicing slide stopping. The goal is to execute the slide stop as smoothly as possible and then to practice firing as soon as possible. I try to focus on pressing the fire button pretty much at the exact same time as I tap the slide button. When I aim in, it really just depends on what I'm trying to do, how far I'm trying to slide, which direction. All that really matters is that you practice slide stopping into the target and then land shots as quickly as you can. Another thing you should focus on is trying to slide a little to the left or right whenever you're practicing this mechanic. You'll notice if you jam your left thumbstick left or right when you're in the middle of a slide stop, you start to drift laterally in one direction or the other. I call it coming off the X, and it makes you a harder target to hit. A rule of thumb for me is I normally slide laterally in the direction of my target, and my momentum helps carry my crosshairs right back into them. How long you should focus on this really depends on your level of skill and experience with slide stopping. If you're someone who almost never slide stops when you're playing, you should probably spend a lot of time on this so it becomes habit and muscle memory. But if you're someone who does slide stop a lot, just spend 30 or so seconds just warming up. But regardless, you should be slide stopping constantly in Warzone, always resetting your tac sprint. Alright, now the next part of the drill you want to practice is slide stopping around corners and barriers, trying to camera your opponent. Now quickly, for those of you that don't know what cameraing is, it's when you swing around a corner quickly and start landing shots before it registers on your opponent's screen. Now with this, you want to glance up at your minimap and find a bot that's around a corner. Next, you want to tac sprint and slide stop, swinging around the corner, locate your target, snap on, and land shots. Just like the first part of the drill, you want to drift a little laterally once you swing around. It'll help if you exaggerate the slide part a little before you come up out of the move. This is a little bit more advanced, and the hardest part is probably locating and snapping on. So what I do is I sweep with my crosshairs in the opposite direction that I'm sliding, so if I go too far past my target, my momentum will help carry me back in. Now this mechanic takes time and practice to master, but once you do, you're going to see it's very effective. Now for the third part of this drill, you want to practice slide stopping into cover and snapping on and landing shots. Whenever you see a bot, look for a piece of cover and try to slide stop behind it before you start shooting them. Now for example, say I see someone in front of me and then there's a piece of cover off to my side. I like to try to practice sprinting and slide stopping behind cover while I'm whipping my crosshairs back around, trying to snap on and fire. Just like the other two, you want to drift laterally when you snap back around with your crosshairs. Try to picture it like you're fishtailing a bike when you slam the back brakes on. Whenever I'm aiming at someone, I like to try to use my momentum to carry my crosshairs towards my target. It makes snapping on my opponent much easier than just trying to be accurate with my right stick. So whenever you're practicing this drill, try to let your slide stop momentum carry you towards the target whenever you can. And you don't always have to do the second and third part in order. You can always mix and match the two whenever you're doing this drill. Now if you don't have paddles yet and you're really struggling to do this drill without them, just try to practice this with just sliding. A moving target that's changing levels will always be harder to hit. Just know though, slide stopping is key once you get into the higher skilled lobbies. Okay, now the 8th drill I have for you is the bunny hop drill. Just like before, I'm going to quickly go over how to bunny hop. This is another technique that's easier with buttons on the back of your controller, but if you don't have them yet, what you could do is change your controller layout to stick and move, and that way there you'll be able to jump by pressing in your right stick. It might take a few days to get used to the new configuration, but it's worth it because you need to be able to stay in control of your aim as you're jumping with this movement. Like I said before, it's important to have at least 2 buttons on the back of your controller so you can stay in control of your thumbsticks as you're pressing the jump and slide buttons. Now with bunny hopping, you want to picture yourself like a small rock that someone just kicked and you're skipping across the pond. You want to start out in a tac sprint and then press the jump button once. At the exact same time, you want to turn your crosshairs to face in the direction you're trying to look or aim, and then you want to time the exact moment you're going to hit the ground and then press the jump button again and then again. If you do it perfect and you time it just right, you could end up skipping up to 4 or 5 times, but you have to hit the jump button every time you're about to hit the ground. Now when I'm practicing this, I try to time it and actually say it in my head. Jump, aim, jump, jump. Jump, aim, jump, jump. Sometimes I have a little bit of input lag, so it doesn't always work out for me. You can try jumping, turning, and just spamming the jump button. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. For me, it just feels different every time. If you learn to bunny hop correctly, you become a very hard target to track. If you don't do it right, the way aim assist works, you'll pull your opponent's crosshairs right towards you and fall flat. In my opinion, it's probably the hardest movement to master in Warzone, because not only do you have to get the timing of the bunny hop perfect, you also have to be able to locate a target quickly, snap on, and land shots, all while you're skipping across the screen. But if you practice it enough and you start to get it down, it could bring your close range gun skill to a whole nother level. Okay, so to start the drill, you pretty much want to treat it the same way we did the slide stop drill. Just try to kill as many bots as you can while bunny hopping. Start out easy, get your timing down, and focus on your tracking and accuracy. The bunny hop works in all directions, so try it at different angles and different ranges. Practice hip firing, practice aiming in at different times. There's a lot of situations this movement can be effective. Start out slow and work your way up and just freestyle around the map. You can even get up on different pieces of cover and practice bunny hopping off. You should also practice strafing back the other way after your last hop, so you're always in the habit of changing direction. And then once you've done this for a little bit and you feel like you're warmed up, next you want to focus on cameraing people and bunny hopping around corners. Just like the slide stop drill, use your mini-map to find bots that are around a corner and practice bunny hopping around trying to camera them. One of the most effective ways to use this move is when you're coming around a corner. Just like with slide stopping, when you swing around a corner fast, you won't even register on your opponent's screen at first. Try not to always look at the exact position of the bot. You want to get used to having to locate the enemy once you've swung around the corner. I try to sort of sweep with my crosshairs in the opposite direction that I'm moving. That way there, if I end up sweeping too far past them, the momentum of the bunny hop will help carry me back in. The one thing I forgot to mention last drill is whenever you're trying to come around a corner and camera someone, make sure whatever you're doing, whether it's sliding or jumping, that you start the movement before you break the threshold of the corner. You need to have your gun ready the instant you start to come around. Otherwise, if it takes you a half a second or so to get your gun down and ready to fire, you're canceling out the advantage you get from cameraing people. Now, the last thing you want to work on is bunny hopping to cover. Whenever you're out in the open and you see a bot, look for a nearby piece of cover. Next, you want to run, turn, and bunny hop towards it and try to land shots as you skip behind the piece of cover. Try to practice this in all directions, forwards, laterally, diagonally, even backwards. If you turn around and run towards something that's behind you, you can jump and turn 180 degrees and start bunny hopping backwards. It's a good way to fade back to cover or even around a corner, and to practice using bunny hopping defensively to get out of a sticky situation. Plus, you're able to land shots as you retreat. It's good for situations where you're low on plates and ammo, fighting multiple guys, or you're just trying to get out of the open. It's a way to fall back while making yourself a harder target to track. It's a little bit more advanced, but the timing's pretty much the same no matter which way you're trying to bunny hop. Just like the rest of the drills, practice a couple minutes whenever you're warming up, and hopefully you start to get the hang of it, and then you'll be able to use it more effectively in Warzone. Alright, now the 9th drill I have for you is the snaking and shouldering drill. I put these two together because they're both very similar. These moves can be used both offensively and defensively, and they're a really good way of gathering information. I'm also throwing jumping to see over cover in this drill. It's another safe way to see what's going on around you. Now, these moves can be a little bit more advanced, but they're not that hard to do. The hardest part is just actually remembering to use them in-game and in what situations. Now, the first thing we're going to start with is snaking. Using this offensively is probably the hardest part of the drill. The first thing we're going to do is get to a piece of cover that you can crouch behind. Next, you want to find a bot that's in front of you, aim in on them, and start firing. Once you start landing shots, you want to press the crouch button once to crouch, and then press the crouch button again to stand back up. The whole time you're doing this, you're still aimed in and firing. Try to keep repeating this, crouching up and down until you've won the fight. You also want to try to strafe left and right while you're doing this whenever you can. Now, what I do so my fingers don't get confused is I make sure I focus on aiming and firing first and foremost. Then once I see I landed the first couple shots, I'll start crouching up and down trying to finish the fight. Snaking behind cover really does three things. One, it makes you a harder target to hit. Two, it stops or weakens your opponent's bullets, making it so you take less damage. And three, it throws your opponent's aim assist off, making it harder for them to get and stay on target. Another thing with this mechanic is you'll notice sometimes your shots still register even a few seconds after you're crouched behind cover. The key with this is just to keep firing the entire time. Now when the bot starts shooting back and you start taking damage, now you want to start practice snaking defensively. What you want to do is whenever you're trying to heal back up or whenever you need to reload your gun, you want to start snaking up and down by tapping the crouch button, and at the same time you want to start moving side to side laterally by moving your left thumbstick left and right repeatedly. Just try to picture yourself like a boxer that's bobbing and weaving. Now the whole time you're doing this, you want to watch where the bots are and which way they're going. Try to take in as much information as you can so when they start to push you, you can react accordingly. This is very effective to do if you're plating up or you're reloading because you can still see what your opponents are doing and where they're going. You'll be able to see when they push you, which direction they're coming from, and how long you have before they get there. This is way more useful than just laying down listening for footsteps because you're actually gathering the information you need to counter their attack. Footsteps are very limited in this game and dead silence is always a possibility. I've also died so many times in this game because I've got caught plating up or reloading, and at least with this you've got somewhat of a chance. Practice snaking both offensively and defensively. Try to shoot as many bots as you can while you're snaking behind cover, and then whenever you need to heal or reload, practice using it defensively. Alright, now the next part of this drill is shouldering. It's similar to snaking except you're going to be coming in and out of cover laterally by strafing side to side, only exposing a little past your shoulder. The reason for this move is pretty much the same as defensive snaking. You're trying to gather as much information as you can and see where the enemy is. It's useful against people that are camping a window, a corner, a roof, or even if you're coming around the building where there's a lot of area to cover where someone could be out there waiting. Now the one thing I should mention with all three of these moves, if you're extremely low on health, you should wait a few seconds to heal up before you expose yourself again. You don't want to get down because you were one shot. Get a little health back before you start moving in and out again. Now how you practice shouldering is whenever you get to a corner or an entranceway or any piece of cover that fully covers your body where you think there might be someone on the other side waiting, you want to quickly peek out a hair past your shoulder, try to see where the enemy is, and quickly try to get back. Only go as far as you can see and then get back as fast as you can. Now if you have a feeling someone's out there but you can't locate them, a lot of times you can use this technique to bait them into firing at you so they give their position away. Try to practice this against bots and use the information to help position your crosshairs so you can start landing shots immediately once you swing out and engage. Just like snaking, if you take damage, you can use shouldering to plate up or reload and you can still see what your enemy's doing. You can even use this behind a tree or a rock, and if they keep firing at you, they're only going to have to reload, which puts you at a huge advantage. The more you practice this drill, the more you'll get the timing and feel down. Now the last thing I want you to do in this drill, every now and then, when you're behind a piece of cover that you can see over if you jump, try to jump and gather as much information as you can. In that brief second that you can see, try to locate the enemy and see which way they're coming. You can either slow play it and pre-aim that direction, or you can try to slide stop or bunny hop out and start landing shots. This is a good way to see what's going on without the risk of taking damage. Now you don't have to spend a ton of time practicing this, just every once in a while whenever the situation presents itself, just enough so you start to remember to use it in game. Now sometimes you can even land a shot or two when you're jumping and weaken your opponent a little, and you can try to gain a little bit of an advantage. Now when you're doing this entire drill, try to mix and match these three things. You don't have to do them in order. Just try to get proficient and make these moves a habit, and eventually start incorporating the defensive techniques into some of the other drills. Alright guys, so the 10th and last drill I have before the bonus was supposed to be the drop shot drill. But with the integration of Vanguard right around the corner, and from the beta it doesn't look like the drop shot is going to be as effective as it has been, I've decided to go with something a lot more beneficial that I've recently started using called the snap drill. At least that's what I call it. I'm probably still going to put out a YouTube short video on the drop shot drill because I do have a few insights some people might find helpful, and I'm definitely putting out a separate centering drill, but I'm still working out the best approach, and this video is going to be long enough as it is. Now the snap drill is exactly what it sounds like. It's a good way of fine-tuning our ability to snap onto a target. Now, how I practice this drill is I start out on one side of the map, I try to snap on and kill as many bots that I can see as quickly and as accurately as I can. Once I've cleared that section of the map, I reload the gun and I start snapping on and firing at all the artificial targets that I see. I snap on, fire a few shots, and then I transition to the next target. My goal is to do it as quickly and as accurately as I can. Now, I don't just do the targets that are in order that are closest to each other. I try to mix it up and snap on at different angles, and I try to pick the targets at random as I go. I might do 2 next to each other and then skip one. I might go to 45 degrees, 90 degrees. If I know there's one behind me, I'll try to turn and snap at 180 degrees. I want it to be random and chaotic as I go through the drill. Now, once the bots start spawning back in and moving in my direction, I switch my attention back and I try to clear them as they come. The whole time you're doing this drill, you want to keep transitioning back and forth between snapping on the different bots and snapping on the artificial targets. Throughout the drill, move around to different parts of the map, snapping and clearing as you go. You can even spray paint your own targets if you want, in addition to the ones that are spawned in around the map, and especially on the other maps that don't have targets that are already set up. Now, if you're someone who struggles with your aim and accuracy, or you're all over the place going way too far back and forth as you try to snap on, there's a few different things that you can do. The first thing you can try is separating the drill into 2 parts. You can do the first part of the drill with no bots, load into a map with 0 bots selected, and just focus on snapping onto the different static targets. And then the second part of the drill, load in with bots, and just focus on snapping onto them and clearing sections as you go. Once you start getting more comfortable with it, you can go back to doing it as one whole drill again. Now, another thing you can do is start out slower when you're snapping onto a target and focus more on accuracy and getting as close as you can with your sights. Once you start getting more accurate and comfortable, then you can start adding more and more speed. And then finally, if you're really struggling with snapping on, you want to go back to the fundamentals of aiming, especially with the static artificial targets, because there isn't any aim assist to help slow you down. And what I mean by that is try to use lateral movement and momentum to help carry you into your target. Never stand still or flat-footed when you're trying to snap onto something. Always start moving and strafing in the direction of your target, and then use your right stick to try to get as close as you can. And then once you're pretty much on or you're narrowly missing, start strafing back the other way and let your momentum carry you into the target. If you're always moving in the direction of your target, you won't have to correct as much with your right stick. The more and more you practice it, the smoother you'll get, and eventually you'll be able to make small, smooth adjustments with your aim, making it so you can snap onto targets faster. The people I've played with in the past always ask why I'm sliding and jumping around so much, and it's basically because I'm using the movement and the momentum to help with my aim. Now, the main goal of this drill is to build the muscle memory we need to snap onto a target in a 3-dimensional environment. I use the stationary targets to help me get into a rhythm, and then when I go back to the bots who actually have aim assist, it feels easier and I'm able to snap on and transition between them faster and more accurately. And I find this drill especially helpful on the days when my aim feels off. It helps with that mind-muscle connection and it really warms the fingers up. Now, I wouldn't do this drill right off the bat. Try to get warmed up a little bit first with some of the other drills, and then do this for a couple minutes towards the middle or the end of your warm-up. And I think a lot of you guys are going to find this drill could be really helpful when it comes to speed and accuracy. Alright guys, so those are 10 Warzone practice drills that I try to do before each and every time I play. Now the last thing I have for you is a bonus drill. But real quick before we get to it, I suggest you practice these drills for at least 10 to 12 minutes a day every time before you play. Think of it like a warm-up, but just try to include some type of variation to most of these drills. If you're really serious about becoming a higher skilled player, you should also try to set aside time at least once or twice a week where you spend 30 minutes to an hour really focusing on getting better at these drills and strategies. Just like anything else in life, the only way you're going to get better at something is by putting in the time and practicing. Now, these drills aren't going to make you a pro player overnight, but given enough time, they can bring you from a below average player to an above average player. Try these drills for a month and then a few weeks later, check your stats and compare them to before you started. If you're doing everything right, you should start to see an improvement. Now, I should also mention that if you're playing with teammates that are casual or below average players, you should also try to convince them into practicing these drills. Now, I know not everyone takes this game seriously, and some people even feel funny practicing and taking it too serious, but like it or not, your teammates directly and indirectly affect your stats, gameplay, and ability. If you're constantly putting yourself in bad situations trying to help other players, you're always having to fight multiple guys at once, or you're constantly looting for money so you can buy your teammates back, you're never really going to be able to focus on getting yourself better at the game. And if your team's the type to avoid fights at all costs and just camp the center for the win, you're never going to get the experience you need to become a higher skilled player. There's a reason the top players for the most part only play with other top players. They wouldn't have nearly as many high kill games and wins, and their KD would be quite a bit lower if all they played with was average and below average players. Now, I'm not saying choose the game over your friends, just try to find a way to convince them to practice and get better as well. Alright, now the reason I started doing this bonus drill was because up until the last day of Season 3, I was playing the best Call of Duty of my life. But the day I loaded into Season 4, it felt like I'd forgotten how to aim overnight. Long story short, it ended up being a PC setting I didn't even know existed called Scale Aim Assist to FOV. Somehow it accidentally got enabled, and I ended up playing like that for over a month and a half. It severely shrinks the aim assist box, and it felt like I was getting no rotational aim assist at all. I started doing this bonus drill about halfway through Season 4, and when I finally disabled the setting and the aim assist felt normal again, I continued doing the drill as a way to try to get back to where I was. I found it's a great way to practice these drills in high pressure situations without the risk of dying in a regular Warzone match. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to load into a game of plunder and drop in or around Storage Town. The goal is to fight as many players as possible while applying a lot of the movements, mechanics, and techniques from all the other drills. I found it's a great way to fine-tune our abilities while practicing against live opponents. And most importantly, it helps us learn when to use certain techniques and in what situations. If you're completely new to a lot of the drills, I'd spend a few days practicing against bots and get the muscle memory down before you start going against live players. It could get kind of sweaty and discouraging if you've never really played aggressive like that before. By now, it's pretty much common knowledge that Storage Town is the hot spot in Plunder, and it's an area where a lot of people go to just fight and frag out. Everyone's looking for a fight, and a lot of them are chasing shots and trying to third party. So with this drill, plates and ammo become the biggest issue. I'd pick a loadout that has an SMG with decent ammo capacity and decent maneuverability. I found I wasn't dying to the third party as much when I switched to the 85 round Bullfrog. I also found the new tempered perk works really well when practicing like this because you're landing in fully plated and it only takes 2 to fill back up. I just keep going back and forth between tempered and overkill because sometimes I feel like I want to have a longer range AR with me as well. The good thing about this exercise is it doesn't matter how many times you die because you're always going to spawn right back in, so just go with whatever you feel works best for you. Which reminds me, make sure you disable the autofill whenever you're loading in the plunder. You don't want to have random teammates, so make sure you select don't fill, otherwise every time you die you're just going to end up spawning across the map at every random location your teammates decide to loot. Now once you drop in and you're moving around and you're trying to kill as many players as you can, as you go you want to try to keep the other drills in the back of your mind. That way there you can try to apply all the movements, mechanics, and techniques that we've been practicing to all the different fights and situations you encounter and want to constantly be putting yourself in. And then the one thing you can do to help yourself with this drill or exercise, whatever you want to call it, is write the drills down and keep them in front of you as a reminder whenever you're practicing this. That way there you can glance down and reference the movements you want to work on as you approach certain situations moving around the map. Now obviously the slow aim drill isn't going to work here, it's just a warm up with bots, but all of the rest of them definitely apply with this drill. In my opinion, strafing, reaction time, cover, slide stopping, and bunny hopping should be the main focus of what you're trying to master with this. And then your secondary objectives should be close range hip fire, headshots, shouldering and snaking, and snapping onto multiple opponents. And the only reason why I say they're secondary is because those techniques are a little bit more circumstantial. So basically, whatever situation you end up in, just try to use one or more of the techniques from the drills that you think will work and be effective. Make sure you're strafing in every fight. Use slide stopping as you move around the map. Always look for your next piece of cover. Try to shoulder peek corners and bunny hop out if you see someone. Another thing you can do is whenever you get money, go to a buy station and grab a UAV. People love hiding in those little storage sheds, and if you see them in there, you can try to slide stop or bunny hop in and then try to camera them. Now, I can't really tell you exactly what to do or use because every situation is different. The main thing is just to keep putting yourself in those different situations and try to figure out what works. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is force certain movements and mechanics in the wrong situation. When we were practicing against bots, we would force things like a slide stop just to get used to doing it. But up against live players, it's not going to work and it's just going to end up getting you killed. The timing of these mechanics has to come naturally. Now, getting better at this takes time, so don't get discouraged if you're having trouble with live opponents at first. The more and more you practice it, the easier it'll start to become. And you can always just break it down into sections and only practice a couple drills at a time. As of right now, I'm not sure what the future of Plunder looks like, especially with the new map that's coming, but whatever game mode they put in its place, just try to find the hot spot on the map and just treat it the same. As long as we can keep spawning back in, we can continue to keep practicing this way. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for the drills. If you could do me a favor and hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. It helps out so much in getting videos out there, especially with new channels like mine. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you get notified whenever I release something new. I'm going to be upgrading this video with the changes coming to Warzone with a new integration, along with a bunch of other drill videos, so be on the lookout for that. I really appreciate you guys watching, and let me know down in the comments if there's anything you sort of struggle with or you want to work on that you'd like to see in a drill. I really enjoy making content like this, and I want the channel to be about finding different and effective ways of helping us all get better together. So give this a shot and share it with your teammates and your friends, and I hope to see you next time. And if not, kick rocks. Peace.
Kick rocks. Bia!